It's David. I just wanted to give you some tips this week. We're getting into what most students will find the most difficult part of academic writing, and that is citations and references. We just finished citations, and now we're moving on to references. And I would encourage you to continue to look at and use the video and the I'll call it a cheat sheet that I put into chapter 5, not chapter 5, but lesson 5, read and study. So do that. Um, the other thing I want to demonstrate a couple of different things for you. Throughout the course, you hear me say a lot that use the CSU online library, use the CSU online library, and don't use Google searches. And I think I scare some students to forget Google altogether when they're in the class. And that's not my intention. It's just you can't use Google as a resource engine. However, when it comes to formatting, sometimes you just need to do something like this. And I encourage you to do this. So I already typed this in. And sometimes if you have a question on how to format something, of course you have your APA book that you have, but sometimes I find that a bit difficult to navigate. Um, and if you tell anyone I said that, I'll deny it, okay? But sometimes the easiest and best way to find out how to format something is just to do a Google question. And here's what I typed in here. Let's say that I found a book with two authors and I wanted to make sure that I formatted that from a reference perspective properly and from a citation perspective properly. Well, if I didn't know it or I wasn't sure, I could go to my APA manual and check through all that. I could go look at one of David's videos, or what I could do is just type it into Google. How do I format a book with two authors in APA 7th edition? It's important that you use 7th edition there because if you don't, you may get some prior edition. So I'm going to hit the search button on that. And the first source up here that it gives me is Purdue OWL. Remember, Purdue OWL is one of my favorite sources to use on formatting. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to take me to the Purdue OWL website. And down here with in-text citations, it's going to give me citing non-standard author categories, a work by two authors. Okay, so here's here are two ways that you could do the citation on that. Research by Wegener and Petty, 1994 supports. Or if you use the citation at the end of the sentence, you type it like that. A work by three or more authors. So you can see this site gives you a lot of really good information as it relates to citation. How to cite authors with the same last name. How to cite two or more works in the same parentheses. Remember, we just had that as a question on the test. And so this is a really good way to get that type of information. Just go in here and type let's do another one just so you can see. How do I format a journal article in APA 7th edition with no DOI? All right, so you're going to have all kinds of different sources here from different colleges who've put together cheat sheets. You're going to have another one here from Purdue OWL. You're almost always going to have something from Purdue OWL here. And so I would encourage you to use them as a source. All right, and so what I would do, the next thing is I would just bookmark this page so that anytime you had a question, you go down here, it talks about citing, it talks about how do you reference certain things, um, and a lot of these at the top are citations, but then it gives you some of the reference articles at the bottom, um, and I think that'd be really helpful for you. Here's one other thing that Purdue OWL does that you may find helpful. Um, there's a citation engine. It's kind of clunky right now, but this could be helpful for you as well. So let's say, for example, in the servant leadership course that I teach, there is a book that we use called Leading at a Higher Level, okay? And so you can click the book drop down, click Leading at a Higher Level, and hit Cite, and it will take you through this citation engine. And that's the name of the book, Leading at a Higher Level, Blanchard on Leadership and Creating High-Performing Organizations. So that's the one I want to cite. Yeah, it's 2019. It's from Pearson Education. That's correct. And that's the author's name. That's the title. That's the publication information. So I'm going to complete that citation. And I want to make sure here that I hit APA 7th edition because it gives you the opportunity to do APA 6th edition that you don't want. And so now all of a sudden it gives me that citation and it's properly formatted to APA. So that's one other option, is utilizing this citation engine. And again, it's a little more clunky for journals, but if you have books or if you have websites that you'd like to use the citation engine on, you can do that. So the message here is don't totally forget Google on doing searches. Just don't search them for research, but you can search them for research formatting. And in particular, I really like this Purdue OWL site because, again, it's going to give you a lot of different options, online scholarly journal articles when you have a DOI, and it'll give you examples of what those look like from a reference perspective and not just a citation perspective. And so now as we're moving into the last 2 weeks of the course, this would be a very helpful site for you to use going forward. All right? If you have any questions, let me know. Take care.